Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in San Juan Capistrano, California at the home of Mark Morton. He is a car collector, an aficionado, a well-known car guy throughout the country, and he has been gracious enough to invite us into his home. So Mark, thank you for having us in here.
You're welcome.
I referred earlier to Mark that this is our Alistair Cook opening here with all the books. Now we're sitting in your library. How did this all come about, your love of cars?
I don't know if I got it genetically or how I did get it. My dad was a garage owner, and so I had proximity to cars my whole life, and just from early on, I was crazy about them. It was toy cars and always aspiring to be old enough to drive. Paid a lot of attention to them, and in those formative years, I was pretty much preoccupied with it. I remember thinking that the cool guys probably had hot rods and things, and so that made me look in that direction.
Mm-hmm. So was it a 32 Ford that first took your heart away, or?
Well, my very first car, because it had to be kind of like a hot rod, was a 38 Ford pickup. It was the pig snout, probably the least popular.
That's coming around now, though.
Yeah, if you get them low enough, they look pretty good. And my dad fixed it up real nice for me. He had me help him rebuild the flathead engine, and he somehow found Eddie Martinez for the upholstery. I couldn't have found him on my own. And it was a nicely turned out truck, but it only lasted a few months until I wanted a 56 Chevy real badly, so they let me trade into that.
We're going to be visiting Mark's garage here real quick, but I noticed your collection out there. You have everything from, looks like you pulled it out from under a hay bale yesterday and it'd been there for decades, to some pretty high-shine stuff. You like the whole gamut?
The whole gamut, both all areas of motorsport, from sports cars to rat rods. And I respect patina as much as I respect fine restorations.
Well, can we go out in your garage and take a look at some of your stuff?
Yep.
All right. Mark, this 26 Ford, pretty rustic here. How did this come about?
Well, a friend of mine had exhumed some cars from a collection up in Merced, California. And one of the least of them was this car, and it was $2,000, but it was a complete Model T touring car without the fenders. And I just had kind of thought that I might get around to a project like this one day, in the spirit of the old Jughead and Archie comics.
Perfect.
And coincidentally, there were a couple of real good T-tubs in hop-up in the early days. One belonged to a guy named Robert Williams, and another more famous to a fellow named Red Hines in Los Angeles.
Speaking of hop-up, Mark is the publisher and editor of Hop-Up magazine, so pretty nice thing that you're doing, bringing that back to life.
We're enjoying it very much. We've got a small but pure market.
How did that come about? You just got inspired, or?
It's just an evolution of collaborating with some people who found that the title could be renewed, and it just was the right time to kind of revive some traditional hot rod themes in publishing.
And our grandfathers didn't call these things hot rods, they called them hop-ups. So most of you know that, but those that you don't, that's where that came from.
That's right.
This is a perfect kind of car for hop-up magazine.
Yeah, it's a pretty exemplary of what we're doing, although it's a little primitive, because we do get into some real nicely painted and turned out cars, just with, you know, 50s aesthetics.
Yeah, which is nice, because some of the magazines that try to successfully look like the old magazines, but with the current cars, it's nice to let them know that they weren't all primered back then. You know, they were primered because you hadn't made enough money at the gas station to get that good paint job on it yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Hop-Up does a really good job of giving a broader spectrum, I think.
Right, we're not very ratty. These are all chassis, are very nicely turned out chassis, and very functional and relatively safe.